Singapore's factory activity saw a marginal improvement last month, though it was the fourth month of contraction. Now, the reading known as the PMI is an indicator of the health of the manufacturing sector, which accounts for over 20% of Singapore's economy. A reading below 50 indicates a contraction. Now, the August reading was 49.9. That's up from July's figure of 49.8. The increase was driven by more new orders and factory output. The manufacturing sector is still facing pressure from global trade uncertainties that continue to disrupt trade flows and supply chains. The key electronics sector logged its 10th straight month of contraction, but the reading edged up to 49.4 as new orders, inventory and employment contracted at a slower pace. Meanwhile, the new exports index was down for the first time in 3 years at 49.9. Now, joining us is Jeff Ng. He's Chief Economist, Asia at Continuum Economics. Good evening, Jeff. Good to see you. Are you surprised at the latest PMI numbers?
It was slightly better than what I expected because I was a bit more pessimistic. Overall, I think the manufacturing sector remains in a recession, even though the economy is still doing slightly better.
Okay, so it is the fourth month of contraction that we're seeing nonetheless. How much of a concern is this, would you say, and would you see this trend continuing?
I think for the sector, it still remains the fact that it will be a drag on the Singapore economy due to weak export orders as well as the overall sector being weighed down by uncertainties like the US-China trade war. So I think we still are likely to see this trend going forward as we head into 2020.
And do you think that those trade tensions between the United States and China, is that still going to be the main driving force behind that uncertainty?
Yes, apart from that, I think there's also some factors like the China slowdown, because a slowdown of the China economy to below 6% growth, I think it's likely to signal at further downsides to the rest of the Asia economies. So if you look at the PMIs for the rest of the Asian economies, they continue to be in contractionary territory.
Let's look specifically at the electronics sector. That's been particularly hard hit by those tensions that you just mentioned there. But the latest reading, it's a slight improvement nonetheless. What would you put that down to?
Well, sometimes if you look at it, either it's slightly bad or somewhat bad or very bad. I still think that it's different degrees of being negative, but I think going forward, if there's some stabilization, it's still likely to be in around weak levels.
So how would you interpret this latest data? Does it convey stabilization for you? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, I think what I'm seeing is that the sector continues to be a drag on the overall manufacturing sector, a bit stabilizing at weak levels. And I think going forward, there's still very little upsides to the story. And I think that will continue to weigh on the manufacturing sector itself. All
right, so still more of a slowdown for this quarter then, do you think?
I think so, because we've not seen any increase in orders. So if the orders don't come in, I think there's still a lot of concerns to whether that could help to pick up the sector. All
right, so, taking all of that into account then, Jeff, your outlook for Singapore's economic performance then going forward?
Well, we are expecting about 0.4% growth for the GDP growth this year, and that's contingent on the economy still growing compared to the last quarter over the next 2 quarters of the year. If the economy tanks further, I think we could be looking at flat growth or even worse. But we should see some better growth next year.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much for coming into the studios, helping us break down those PMI numbers that we've been seeing today. Jeff Ng, their Chief Economist Asia at Continuum Economics.